Welcome to 20 Minutes of Clarity.
I'm Jason Noble, and with me today, as always, is the knowledgeable Andy Merchant. Today, we're excited to kick off a brand new 4-part series focusing on a strategy every smart investor should understand: passive investing. As we navigate through this series, we'll break everything down into a clear, actionable insights. Today's episode is just the beginning, and we'll be covering the basics of passive investing, diving into why it's a preferred strategy for many, like really due to its effectiveness and how it works with the overall comprehensive approach. Over the next few episodes, including today, we'll explore 3 fundamental areas. First, the core principles of passive investing and how you can make it work for you. We'll next unravel the tax considerations to keep in mind, which will help you maximize your investments. And lastly, we'll guide you to not on like where and like how you could continue learning and staying informed about passive investing strategies. Our goal by the end of the series is not just to inform you, but to transform you into a more knowledgeable, empowered investor. So let's get that clock started and embark on the journey together. Andy, I always like having our conversation. This is a fun one for both of us because this is something that we do see as an essential part of building out a comprehensive approach. Passive investing. I'll kick it off to you as we start the clock. Get us started.
Well, let's just start off by first disclaimer out there. Passive investing is not necessarily private investing, and it oftentimes gets kind of misunderstood or commingled in there. There are some passive investing strategies that we'll talk about that we like that are private investments and require certain accreditations and certain statuses. But for the sake and the purpose of this series, the reason why, right, just we broke this out into a 4-part series and not just one conversation, is to your point, is the importance of having an investment strategy, or better yet, income that is not derived from your everyday activity, right? And I think that's the important thing is, we've heard it's called mailbox money. It's also known as dividends, or it could be interest payments, but it's a way, this is how you get velocity in your return, right? Or in your income return, because this is not a performance measurement as much as it's an income story. So that's why we love it. That's why it's important. You and I are huge cash flow guys, right? We believe that, cash flow is at the center of all retirement plans. If you don't have cash flow, you can't really do a whole lot. If you have cash flow, then it opens up a lot of the doors. And one of the best ways to get cash flow, I know you and I like it, I know a lot of our top clients like it, is, man, if I could get so much income coming in that doesn't require my limited time, like, let's go, right? So I'm hoping those are listening, you get as excited as we are, because I do think this can be a game-changing series for you. So you know more, you're more educated, and you're more confident as you start to think about and build out your investment stream.
Let's put out the definition, right? So you have active income. You have to actively be a part of that for it to be active income. So W-2 income, right? If you're an employee at a firm, right? That could be 1099 income if you're a contractor, right? Yep. K1 is if you're an active owner, right? But then passive income is coming in from what Andy already discussed, right? Just to recap it, it's you don't actively have to be there and be actively involved in order to get that income coming in. Passive income. That's the purest definition, right?
Yep.
We're simplifying complex terms to make it straightforward and easy so everyone that's listening can make better informed financial decisions. To learn more about who we are and what we do, go to clearpicturefinancial.com, scroll down, enter in your information, and schedule a conversation with a specialist. So, Andy, let's continue on, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the being that this is the kickoff, right? You said something that caught my attention. You said it doesn't necessarily have to be private investments. Can you go more into what kind of investments could it be? And then I'm going to segue into like the private side, but what kind of other investments could it be?
Yeah, well, the biggest one, and I know some of our younger accumulation listeners may not be as familiar with this type of passive investing as many of our retirement or transitioning clients are, but it's called interest from your bank savings accounts. We could just start there, right? I know that since the this '07, '08, and when interest rates dropped to nothing, you didn't make any money on your bank account, right? I would hardly think that anybody would call that passive income. If anything, it may be even called passive cents, because that's about what you got on your money. But we're back into an environment that you can see north of 4% on your bank money. So I bring that up because I think that's the easiest low hanging fruit for those that are looking for strategies on how do I start the journey into passive income. The very first thing you need to do is look at your bank cash and make sure that it's optimized so that you're taking advantage of some of these new rates, right? Because here's the thing: it's not all banks. I mean, think about it. They're in the business as well to make profit. They're not going to go to you and say, "Hey, Jason, thank you for leaving your deposit at our bank. I know we haven't paid you a lot for the last 8 to 10 years, but we went ahead and automatically moved your rate up to the interest." They're not doing that, right? You have to sometimes open a new account or ask them. But my point is that just think about it. If you've got 100 grand, because I like simple numbers, if you got 100 grand sitting in between a bank account and a checking account that was making point zero nothing, as we used to say, making some sense on 100 grand, now you can make 4 grand. That's 4 grand for your money to sit there waiting for you to use it if you've got a 4% gross return on. Now, keep in mind, taxes are all part of this question too, but that's a big step in the first. So I start there because I think it's low hanging fruit. I think it's easy. Then it really goes into your investment strategies. Those that are in your non-retirement accounts, got to keep in mind, income inside of retirement accounts are important for total volatility. But remember what we said, the point of this conversation, why we're calling it passive income, is we're talking about the income that you actually take out or can use and play with along the way. It does matter in retirement, but for the sake of today's call, it's not the priority. But think about dividends. Stocks are pay you to hold it. So you get the growth, sometimes a loss, by holding a stock, but at the same time, they pay you a dividend income. So those are probably the two most common that I think our listeners can associate, most freely with for that part.
Okay. And then on the private side of the equation, because we're
Yep.
like, by no means I want anyone listening right now to think that we're making any sort of recommendation. We're just talking through like the genres of private investing. Like, what are some of the private investment vehicles that are out there that could drive income that come to the top of your mind?
Mm-hmm. There's two I like, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them is real estate. You got to be careful because you've got to understand real estate. So I don't want anybody, to your earlier point, which I appreciate the disclaimer for those listening, don't go out and just say, I'm going to start buying real estate property and think it's going to cash flow tomorrow, or buy into a syndication to where you can partner with somebody that's going to do some of the work and provide you with that. But start educating yourself on how real estate fits into your passive income. They come with a lot of benefits, which we're going to dive into in a future. We have an entire part of the series dedicated to only real estate income, so you guys can get it, because I know the information's out there. And right, Jason, because you and I have talked so much about this, our job is to not give recommendations necessarily unless you become our client. And everybody, I think, that listens frequently knows how to inquire about that. But we want to educate you so that when you do sit down or you do come across this, you're making informed decisions. And so I think real estate's a very important.
Real estate's one.
Yep. Yeah. And the second one, which is really going to become new, but think about it this way: the digital products, or in today's world, how many of you guys that are listening have started built a business, built a widget, built something that you can just provide as a download? So really good story. There's two that I have, but one I want to share. So my wife's a newborn photographer, right? She has the luxury of taking and capturing moments for families, a very awesome time. But what she created out of that was a really sound digital process that allows her pictures to come to life more, right? And a lot of other photographers saw the value in that. So what she did is she created you'll have to ask her what it's called, but she created a digital product that all other photographers that wanted to have that similar editing style could go on and download it. I love it. She gets so excited about this, Jason. She'll walk in and say, she sells them for like $80 a pop, right? So someone goes in, downloads them. She created them months ago. People can download them for $80, right? She goes, I just made like $175 in the last hour because 3 people downloaded. Like it's passive money to her now that she didn't have to deal with. So think about that. If you have an idea, a knack, a talent, or an ability to create something one time and then maybe refine it a little bit, but are out of the picture, you could be sleeping making $80 a pop or more. The second one I'm leading to people, which is going to take some research, but the power of AI and what it's going to be able to create from a GPT or some other kind of resources coming to that. You could go out there today, create your own personalized GPT that could feed into a system where people can pay to get access to whatever you're providing in a more efficient manner. So think about digital products. That's a new and upcoming thing. You heard it here first, by the way.
Yeah, you heard it here. And Andy, I haven't even shared this with you. So I did get an advanced certification in blockchain and digital assets through the DACFP. And so I'm very proud to have that. And it was around a lot of what's going on in blockchain technology, which is absolutely incredible. Less on AI.
Yeah.
But you and I talk about AI weekly, if not daily.
Yeah.
And we talk about it here in the office on a regular basis as well. I was at a conference. It was the Wealth Management Convergence Conference, and I was a featured speaker. And I got to say, a lot of featured speakers, they just come in and do their speaking engagement and they leave. I was like, you know what? I have the honor of being a part of this conference. Let me also attend other people's segments and see what they're saying to see if there's anything I could take away and bring back to the office and bring back not to the advisors, but also to my clients. And a question was brought up about AI. I was going to share with everyone. It was, do you think AI will replace financial advisors? And the featured speaker says, no, I don't believe that's going to be the case, especially those financial advisors who are actively engaged with all their clients and intimate with what's going on with their personal finances and things of that nature. He goes, but advisors that use AI will replace those advisors who don't. And I found that to be a very striking statement, because there's financial advisors that were at that conference that didn't know really how to apply AI or how does it come into play.
Yeah.
And there's already things that you and I are working on that you're eating the cooking that you're presenting on this conversation today. There's another faction though, right? You talked about real estate. You talked about digital asset or AI coming in as another passive income source. Also go back to other private investments, not just private real estate, but private credit, private debt structures, and things of that nature. Income producing private investments also come into play as, I would say, a third segment on that side of the equation. So, when we were talking in an earlier podcast, we talked about independence ratio. Passive income goes towards that ratio. Okay. So it was a conversation I was having with a couple that I work with, and they spend about $7,000 a month in retirement, in living expenses. They're still working. They make about $10,000 a month in income, just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. So they got $3,000 of free cash flow off this example, very straightforward example. And so when I was talking with them about their independence ratio, I was like, we got to get more money into a taxable account so that you can have that as passive income. So this conversation was a few years ago, and right now they're coming in at $5,000 a month in passive income. Pretty good, right? And within 3 years. Now, here's the thing. Their essential expenses are $5,000. $2,000 a month is on discretionary expenses. So they've already hit, in my consideration, level 1 of being financially independent. Level 1 is when you have your essential expenses covered by your passive income. Okay. Now, what about the discretionary? We got to find other strategies that's going to get them up to an extra $2,000 a month. Now they're going to hit level 2 of financial independence, which is their essential and discretionary expenses on a monthly basis are being covered by what's going on with their passive strategies. Now, I'm going to ask you, Andy, if either one of them just got randomly laid off today, as we have this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and they have essential expenses of $5,000, and they got that coming in off their passive strategy, are they going to be okay to navigate through that choppy waters?
They're going to feel better, right? I mean, I'd rather know that I don't have to, like, if I have a job, like in that case, the problem with active income, if you're self-employed, well, even if you are, but usually active income means somebody else is paying you for your active time, right? And they control if and when you still get that active payment. Even if you're self-employed, this is important for you as well, because your client is your employer, and so by being able to go out there and say, I've earned a nest egg of money, and I'm able now to apply it in whatever your risk adjusted needs are, right? Because just because it produces income doesn't mean it's risk free, right? And I think we'll hit on some points. But say, if I could take my money and maximize the cash flow that it produces, right? Even if you want growth, you can still get growth and income. It's not an either or in this story. It's just some produce more income and no growth. Some, and when you start talking, Jason, about moving into the private space, which is why we dedicated that entire podcast to strategies like that in the future podcast, is because you could still get strong growth with really good income, right? In the form of a preferred return, which will cover or a distribution. It just changes the mindset. But to your question, to your scenario there, client, if you could go to your client and say, how much can we get in? If you're out there, let me back up. If you're out there making money today, not in retirement, so you don't have any protected income, annuities, right, or Social Security, if you could still get a good chunk of your expenses to be covered by passive income, man, that makes all that active income just gravy. That's for vacation. That's for fun. That's for additional net worth development. But you got to start, and it takes a while to build. So
yeah, anything worth doing is going to take time to do it.
Yes.
So part of the due diligence part of the process is making sure you actually go through the process of due diligence.
Yes.
Right. I mean, if you get a phone call from a random person going, hey, we're going to go into this investment, yada, 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 you're going to love it. It's going to get you this and that. Well, no, send me over the data. Let me look over the information so that I could then be able to start the process. Go through your own process or work with a qualified advisor that knows how to do this. But when I go back to that couple, we're focusing on, okay, what can we do now to get an extra $2,000 a month off their investments? And then the third thing is, how do we get 150% of their monthly expenses coming in through reoccurring passive, right? So that would be another like $3,500 on top of the $7,000. So $10,500 is what we need to get in order for them to be what is considered level 3, which is pure. They are now financially independent. Mm-hmm. The $10,000 that they're making through work, it's because they are going into work because they still want to.
Yes.
Right. And it's not because they need to. So the conversation I had with them recently was, hey, if I wanted to cut down my hours, can I? The answer was yes.
Yes,
you can. Now, 3 years ago, if they asked me that same question, the answer would have been no. So it's always progress towards the goal, right? And it starts somewhere, but it starts with the conversation. It starts with the desire to understand and learn, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you're listening to this and you're going, no wonder the rich get richer. Yes, it's because they use time to proven strategies and they allow time to work on their side. And if you're listening to this going like, man, I'm making good money, but I'm working for someone else. I'm getting raked over the coal with taxes because I'm a W-2 employee and there's not much I could do to navigate that. There is some, but not much. Yeah. You're like, I want this. Well, okay, you could say you want it, but what are you going to be willing to do to change your behaviors to do it? It's easy to say I want to do something. It's harder to say I will do what it needs to be done to get it taken care of and addressed. Well, this is where we want you to go to clearpicturefinancial.com and start the conversation so that we can see how this fits into your personal finances.
Well, it's just so important because, I just loved your heated and just passion there. But a lot of times, we take for granted how much knowledge and time we spend in our craft, right? And so we think about this. It's like, why wouldn't we do this? But for those that are out there that probably aren't going home every day and really analyzing, their investment allocation, location, where their money's going, and how these things apply, this is new. This is new news to them. And so that's the point of sitting down, Ty. That's why we made the clear picture analysis in the initial conversation at no cost, no obligation, right? We felt it's that important that Jason and I would rather commit our team, right, Jason, you and I, to commit our teams to helping people make the very first decision, and that's whether or not to work with us based on the strategies we outline, not a historical return potential, right? And the only thing I want to put on that, because I know we're running close on our time here, but that we commit to everybody. Here's the thing: is that if you put money in a 401k, great place. You guys have heard me in the past. You put all your eggs into that 401k basket, and you could generate passive income inside of there, but it's not usable cash flow. It's fine if you're retired. It allows us to do some of the things that Jason, you were mentioning earlier, when you start to move into retirement. But what if you're not retired? What if you're not going to be retired for 10 years right now? And you put all your money in a basket that you cannot have any control over the cash flow or the access. Maybe it makes sense in your picture to take a little bit of that money out and start building that security cash flow bucket along the way using some of the strategies that we identified today. So that's why it's so important to get started. You have to do what Jason said, have a plan. If you don't have a plan, right, Jason, we don't know how to give you direction. We're not doing the right thing for you. So you got to start with a plan, and you got to get a clear picture analysis and optimal score first to understand if passive income streams make the most sense for you, how aggressive you need to be, right? Then you got to get educated. It's a different language out there when you start shifting. So we want to help educate you. That podcast, make sure you tune in each week now for the next 4 weeks, because you're going to just get jammed with information. But the podcast, the white papers, the blogs, all of the information we're putting on our website is where you can go and use your own time and not just this 20 plus minutes that we're going to go into today. And then finally, you got to craft a strategy, right? If you just can't go out there and just buy a passive investment stream and hope it works. If you do that, I promise you it will not work out long-term for you. But anyway, those are my quick 3 nuggets of how to get started. I think you need some call to actions, and I think that's the best thing I got.
Well, that was the knowledgeable, highly experienced Andy Merchant, and I'm your host, Jason Noble. You just watched and listened 20 minutes of clarity. Thank you so much for tuning in, and tune in next week as we go deeper into passive investing and passive income strategies so that you can learn more. And I think we're going to be touching on tax implications on that as well. So if taxes is a thing that you're concerned about, and if not, okay, call a doctor, don't call us. But if it is, give us a call and we'll have that conversation with you. You just watched 20 minutes of clarity. Thank you so much.
See you later.